What's up, guys? This is Sam Talks About Games, and today I'm going to be talking about why the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a Switch 2. I think it is going to be in a hybrid form factor, and they are going to iterate, not innovate. First off, I'd like to add that if you do like my content, subscribe, like the video, interact. It helps a lot. But, moving forward, I think, obviously we all know, that the Switch is a massive success, and Nintendo is afraid of failure for their next console. The Wii U failed as a sequel to the console. The Super NES, to an extent, was lesser than the NES sales-wise, even though it had some of the best games of all time for a generation, in my opinion. The 3DS, although it did very well, it was a lot less than the DS. You get my gist here. Anytime Nintendo has followed up a system, that system is done worse. They've never successfully followed up a system or even retained 80% of its sales. So, I think that they are going to try to follow up the Switch, but they're going to try another strategy. So, Nintendo has always followed up their systems, that is true, but sometimes they've been a lot different. The Wii U was very, very different from the Wii, and people thought it was peripheral. And by that time, momentum for the Wii had fallen off. The 3DS was very successful, don't get me wrong. 75 million units isn't bad, but it's their worst selling handheld. And it was an extension of the DS in a way, but the 3D wasn't a huge deal. It felt more like a novelty and gimmicky, but it still did very well, so I can't say the 3DS was a failure. That might be the one outlier, even though it did sell half of what DS did, maybe because DS was just such a phenomenon. But my point is, Switch 2 should really just be another Switch, and it should keep the same infrastructure and carry over your digital purchases as well. And also have a spot for the game card for Switch to be inserted. Maybe it's the same kind of game card. Well, we shall see. I mean, I know the next Switch is rumored to be using 3D NAND, so maybe it's separate. We'll see. But my point is, Nintendo Switch 2 is probably going to be another Switch based on the rumors, and I think it's still going to be successful. Because in this day and age, people are still buying Switches. There's a projected 15 million to be bought this year. Nintendo massively outperformed in their second quarter. Now, I think that's because of Tears of the Kingdom. But my point stands. Switch is still getting demand for games, software, and hardware. Software is not even really going down. Software is doing really good right now. Hardware is going down, but this is normal for a system this late in its life. The Switch is now in its 7th year. We're in the twilight years for sure. And I think we're getting Nintendo Switch 2 next holiday. I was thinking early 2024, but we're getting a little close to that, and I'm just thinking holiday at this point. So, I think it's going to be earlier in the holiday, though. I think it's going to be in the September period, not like the October to November period. Maybe October, but more likely September, and here's why. If you release a console in September, you can sell out that initial stock through September and early October, or it'll probably sell out on launch anyway. But my point is, the system's going to sell out, and you're going to get that initial wave of buyers, but then you're going to get another rush of buyers in the holiday. So you get a second wind within a few months, which I think is very useful for the year's financial reports. So I think September, October is a good time to release a console. They did it with the OLED, they did it with the Lite. It's a common thing for them to do, and I think they're going to do it again. So, furthermore, if they release a console in September, they don't have to bunch together a bunch of games for that console that have a lot of games going into the holiday. So they could have maybe 2 games in September, right? Like, let's say Prime 4 and 3D Mario. And then October could have, say, 2D Zelda, right? And then November could have, say, Tears of the Kingdom DLC and Pokemon. So you have 4 games and 1 big expansion that are paced somewhat fairly, like they usually pace their holiday lineup. So that's why I think it's coming earlier in the second half. I don't think it's coming July or August, obviously, but I think it's going to be September. So yeah, that's what I think about the release timing situation. Furthermore, like I said before, I think the eShop is going to be connected somehow. I think they're going to at least try to make it less laggy. I know the eShop runs on a web browser, so that's part of the reason why it's so laggy, but, I think they're going to try to improve things in that department. I also think near launch, to try to push systems, they're going to have like 2 to 3 massive games back to back. So, with the way Prime 4 is being talked about, and the way we think that 3D Mario is coming, I mean, it's pretty much a given, right? It's probably going to launch the system. So Prime 4 could be a 10 to 15 million seller, given it's hitting at a larger audience, just like Zelda did when it launched Switch. Breath of the Wild, nobody thought that was going to sell 30 million. I mean, that was a massive surprise, but there's just that much demand for open world, and I think they're going to try to make Metroid open world, like the rumors have been saying, and it's exciting. I'm wondering how they're going to be able to pull it off. Maybe, tight corridors, but connected by one large open world hub area. It's exciting. A 2D Zelda wouldn't be quite as big, but a Tears of the Kingdom DLC could possibly be massive, given if it's released as its own thing, like a Xenoblade DLC, or say probably the Elden Ring DLC. I mean, that's coming out next year, I guess, and that's going to be massive. So yeah, and I think there's obviously going to be a Pokemon game, and it's not going to release on Switch 2, but it'll release on Switch and it'll be backwards compatible with Switch 2. So there you go. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the next gen Switch and rambling on about it, and I hope you enjoyed the video. That's about it. See ya.